Welcome, welcome. I see folks are trickling in. We're going to give everyone a few moments to get settled. So please make yourselves comfortable and we'll get started in a few minutes.
Don't you know, we're talking about a revolution. It sounds like a whisper. Don't you know, we're talking about a revolution. It sounds like a whisper. While they're standing in the welfare lines, crying at the doorsteps of those armies of salvation, wasting time in the unemployment lines, sitting around waiting for a promotion. Don't you know, talking about a revolution. It sounds whisper. Poor people gonna rise up, get their share. Poor people gonna rise up and take what's theirs. Don't you know you better run, 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 run. Oh, I said you better run, 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 run. 'Cause finally the tables are starting to turn. Talking about a revolution. Yes, finally the tables are starting to turn. Talking about a revolution. Oh no. Talking about a revolution. Oh, while they're standing in the welfare lines, crying at the doorsteps of those armies of salvation, wasting time in the unemployment lines, sitting around waiting for a promotion. Don't you know, talking about a revolution sounds a whisper. And finally the tables are starting to turn. Talking about a revolution. Yes, finally the tables are starting to turn. Talking about a revolution. Oh no. Talking about a revolution. Oh no. Talking about a revolution. Oh no.
Welcome, welcome, folks. Thank you for making the time to be here on a weeknight. We know lots going on. Ballots just dropped today, and we appreciate you all taking the time to tune in. So welcome for those of you who signed up. This is Portland for All's Policy Talk. We're going to be talking about ranked choice voting today. My name is Andres. I use he and they pronouns, and I'm the board chair for Portland for All. Portland for All is a completely volunteer run C4 nonprofit. We're united in our belief that there is a hopeful, positive, and inclusive future that's possible for the city. For some, this might be your first event with Portland for All. Thank you for joining us. I'll share a little bit about what we do and then really turn it over to our amazing panelists today. We're going to tell you all about ranked choice voting and the changes coming to our election. Um, as a grassroots organization, Portland for All does a variety of events from town halls to hear directly from community members, events for volunteers to become plugged in and engaged. We do these policy talks as opportunities for folks to learn about topics and educate themselves. And then as a C4, we're able to endorse candidates. So on our website, portlandforall.org/voter guide, you can see our recommendations around this election. All of our programs are led by volunteer members. If this sounds interesting to you, please reach out. Um, Without further ado, we're excited to get started with tonight's panel. During the event, you are welcome to put in questions for us to answer at the end. At the bottom of the screen, you should see a Q&A function. If you click on it, you should have the opportunity to submit questions. We have some prepared questions we'll go through first. We'll have a simulated ranked choice voting exercise for you all to experience how that plays out in single winner and multi-winner environments. And then we will turn it over to questions from the audience. So to get started, I'm gonna let our panelists introduce themselves and talk a little bit about how they came to this work, starting with Jennifer.
Thanks, Andres. My name's Jennifer Parrish Taylor. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm the Director of Advocacy and Public Policy at the Urban League of Portland. The Urban League of Portland is a nonprofit that's existed since 1945, which means we will celebrate our 80th anniversary next year. And so we're one of the oldest Black-serving, Black-led organizations in the States, and our work is statewide. We focus on things such as housing, workforce development, advocacy work, youth and seniors, families, etc. So really any issue that touches the lives of folks, we focus on and seek to advance in those areas. Many of you might know that for Black Oregonians, we are very much overrepresented in many of the facts and figures when it comes to houselessness, when it comes to lower wages, the list goes on. And that's part of what has driven me to the work. Growing up, my mother was a longtime civil service worker in the state of Oregon. And so I grew up seeing her clients that she would meet with and really seeing how she worked to get them the services that they need so that they could have the most agency possible in their lives. And I think specifically when it comes to voting, I come to this work because the Voting Rights Act, which was passed to eliminate racial disparities and racial discrimination, passed in 1965. My dad was 18 years old. So this is very much real world, real life issues that are happening now and not just in the past. And we've seen nationwide and quite frankly, here at home, some drives to make it harder for folks to engage when it comes to voting. And quite frankly, folks that look like me fought too hard and for too long to make it possible for me to vote. And, how dare I not be in this work and exercising my right to vote. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Leah, do you want to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about how you came to this work?
Yes, my name is Leah Benson. I use she and they pronouns. I am the Ranked Choice Voting Project Manager at Multnomah County Elections. At the County Elections Division, we oversee the administration of every election within Multnomah County for all of the cities within it, including the city of Portland, which brings us here tonight. I think being in this role, I get asked a lot, how long have you been working in elections? Like, what's your background? To which I get to say, my background is in bikes. I come from the bike industry, which may seem like kind of an odd connection. But for several years, I owned and ran a small bike shop in Northeast Portland, Gladys Bikes. And in 2019, when I left that role, I kind of took an inventory of what I wanted to do next and thought about what I was good at and what I had to give. And turns out what I'm really great at is diving into the abyss, taking a whole bunch of things, bringing them together and building systems that work. So around this time was also when Portland was going through a transition and deciding on a new form of government. And I decided that this is where I wanted to engage most. And so started my journey serving on the Government Transition Advisory Committee through the city of Portland. And in that, really begun to fully immerse myself in ranked choice voting. And I'm thrilled to now be able to do it A lot. I was going to say 40 hours a week, but it's more than that. And I'm so grateful to be here with you all tonight. So thank you.
Thank you so much to both of you for being here. For those in the audience, we're really excited about our panelists. Both bring such incredible experience that will be very valuable to today's conversation. So to take advantage of that in our prepared questions, we're gonna do a little bit of directing to folks who might be better suited for certain questions. So when we think about the changes to our election, I want to start with Leah. If you can talk a little bit about what are those specific changes that are happening from the way people are used to voting and where that came from or what those changes are.
So most basically, we are in the process of implementing ranked choice voting right now. As a refresher, ranked choice voting is a style of voting that allows voters to rank candidates in order of preference instead of selecting only one on their ballot. Why we're doing this is because let's go all the way back to November of 2022. In November of 2022, there were two things on people's ballots that had to do with ranked choice voting. One came from the city of Portland. The Portland Charter Commission, which is a group of citizens from city of Portland that gets together every 10 years to look at our city charter, which is like our city constitution, to decide if there are ways that we could be doing things better or differently. And the Charter Commission put forth an amendment that had three major changes to the city of Portland government. One being to move to a mayor-council form of government. Two being to implement 4 geographic districts instead of at-large voting. And the third one to be implementing ranked choice voting for single winner contests for mayor and auditor and multi-winner contests for Portland City Council. Portlanders voted on this, and 58% of Portlanders voted to say, yes, we do want to implement this new form of government, including the use of ranked choice voting. One other thing that I want to point out is that Multnomah County voters also voted on this. The County Commission, which is also a group of citizens that from the county that comes together, in this case, every 6 years, to look at the county charter. So again, like the county constitution, to decide if there are ways that we could change or adapt it to better suit to people's needs. One of the amendments or ballot measures that they put forth was to adopt ranked choice voting countywide as well. And also in November of 2022, 66% of Multnomah County voters voted to say that they want to use ranked choice voting to elect county positions moving forward. So right now at the elections division, we are in the thick of implementing ranked choice voting for City of Portland for this November, also known as today when we sent out the ballots to folks, or we started to send out the ballots. But we are also laying the groundwork for implementation of ranked choice voting countywide starting in November 2026.
Thank you so much for helping break down some of these really technical changes. So reminding us the changes are really coming from the charter commissions at the city and county, that we're going to see different forms of ranked choice voting with both multi-winner and single winner at the city. And then down the road, we'll be seeing it for the county, but not on this November's ballot. Jennifer, next I want to go to you to tell us a little bit about where these changes came from and what the motivation was for some of these shifts from the way we've typically done elections.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, where the motivation came from, and by us, I mean Urban League of Portland, is that with the Charter Commission, we really had an opportunity for the first time in a very long time to really rethink if the current structure of government and how we were voting really was serving all of our community. And, you know, we were one of, if not the last city that had the current structure of government that we had. And so a lot of other cities have innovated in this way. And I think we had an opportunity to reassess. And so I think also what is important to really understand is that for a lot of communities of color, specifically Black communities, we often have to make pragmatic choices when it comes to voting. And we're often faced with, you know, voting for the devil we know versus the one we don't. And we're not always super excited about who we have to vote for. And I think one of the things that I'm looking forward to with this new form of voting, with ranked choice voting, is really an opportunity to think through You know, how can we expand our democracy to everyone? How can we ensure that all communities see themselves reflected in those folks, those brave folks who have decided to run, who have said, you know, I have something to offer for my community, and this is what I stand on. And so, you know, I think it's exciting. I understand that, you know, folks are somewhat anxious about the change, and understandably so. But I think for us, because we have been a part of this process from the beginning, I just think it's just a really great opportunity to open up the field to folks that may not be, you know, household names, may not be candidates or elected officials that everyone knows and have been around for a while, but are really now forced to be representatives from the community. I mean, that's one of you know, the new innovations with this new form of government is, you know, with these new districts, your representatives actually have to be from those districts. So now the hope is that folks will have a stronger sense of what's happening in community, but also now that they aren't, you know, having to deal with a larger population in terms of who they're representing, they can actually spend more intentional time hearing from community about what issues they're facing, but I think more importantly, hearing what solutions community might have, because we often find that, you know, the folks who are closest to the issues often have the best solutions. So we're really looking forward to it, and we're excited to really see how this takes off.
Thank you. So I know one of the questions that we've heard a lot from folks is these changes are big. They were approved a while ago, but we're really just beginning to see them in November. So I think it would be helpful for people to hear what has outreach and education to voters and communities looked like for these changes. Jennifer, maybe we can start with you and then go over to Leah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll be honest. I mean, we've been a part of the process since charter reform. And so as soon as we had a sense that this was a real thing and it was going to pass, and that voters wanted to see this change, we have been doing the education since then because, you know, in our country, voting has a not so great history when it comes to Black folks. And so I think anytime there is a change to how folks are voting, there's going to be a level of anxiety and apprehension. And so our, you know, thinking was that we have to get ahead of that. Even if we don't have, you know, consistent messaging yet, we have to start talking about the mechanics. You know, this is not the first time that a state has done ranked choice voting. We've seen it done in other states. And we've actually seen, because of ranked choice voting, that candidates of color and women are showing up more as candidates and getting elected. And so I think the city recognized that this was going to be a Herculean task in terms of, you know, getting all the information together, getting it translated so everyone could access it. And I will say they've done a really tremendous job in terms of turning to community groups and asking, like, can you get involved? What can you do? What is your capacity? Where we can fund you, which is really important, because, you know, we were doing this work prior to us getting funded. And it helped to get that boost to really deepen and widen our influence and just be a source and a resource for a community to ask all their questions, dispel any misinformation or disinformation we're hearing about the process, and really prepare folks and manage expectations around what this new process is going to look like and what folks can expect when voting starts happening. And I will say, you know, the city has been really responsive when we've said, hey, like, this messaging is not necessarily going to work for this set of or group of folks. We really need to tweak it and rethink it. And they've been open to that and have encouraged community partners to really, you know, take the information that we've received and use it in ways that we know will best reach our folks. And, you know, I've always been responsive and open to, you know, how do we remix it so that the most folks will get the information and folks will feel prepared when it comes time to voting. So I think it's been just a great experience.
Thanks, Jennifer. Leah, you mentioned you're at the county. Can you talk a little bit about what that education and outreach has looked like, especially thinking of the city's role, the county's role, and how it gets out to community members?
Absolutely. Since we are currently implementing ranked choice voting for the city of Portland, the city is largely taking a lead on the voter education. One thing I'll point out is that in the charter reform amendment, it was said that when we adopt ranked choice voting, that the city needed to commit to doing voter education, and they really have done so, and have a great program like Jennifer outlined. Another thing I want to draw attention to is that we've been working in lockstep with the city on this. We meet so regularly to ensure that we have the same messaging that are going out to voters. We've even tried to use the same branding and colors. We have the same comic book artist to help with different things. I think there's a lot of messaging in Portland right now about the city and county butting heads on certain things. And I want to make sure that folks know that this has really been a pretty glorious collaboration between the two, trying to make sure that we're reaching out to as many people as possible, and that, again, we're providing a cohesive message for voters in doing so. What that's looked like from the government end of things is that we opted to not start doing voter education until after May. Couple of reasons for that. First being, we want to make sure that voters are able to concentrate on the ballot in front of them. And in the May primary election, there was not ranked choice voting on that. And so we wanted to make sure that we weren't providing education that might confuse people as they were voting in May. Second, like Jennifer said, the good news is we are not the first jurisdiction to be implementing ranked choice voting. So we have so many people to learn from. And as a best practice, we learned from other places that starting just a few months before the election to really get into voter education was the best time to get people's attention and ensure that they were thinking about what their ballot would look like. So voter education started in earnest that was funded by the city and county over the summer up until now. Another piece of the voter education is that the city and the county have been focusing on getting out to individual voters. But in addition to that, the city has focused a lot on candidate education, getting information out there to make sure candidates understand, since they are such a powerful voter education tool. And the county has focused a lot of efforts on the media as best we can, understanding that a lot of voters look to them for information about elections and look to them for information on election night to interpret what the results mean. So the voter education approach has been expansive with a lot of different parties and pushed in multiple directions because we're trying to do everything we can to have at least one touch with every voter.
Thank you. It's really helpful to hear from both of you about what outreach and work has happened, but also understanding some of the strategy and why some folks didn't hear about it until after May, and making sure that there's that opportunity for everyone to hear both directly from government, but also from community groups who have relationships with people about what's happening. So our next question is about what ballots and voting are actually going to look like during the election. To help out, I have pulled up a sample ballot from Multnomah County. So I'm just going to share my screen quickly for people to take a look. So if you live in Northeast Portland, your ballot will look something, or parts of Northeast Portland, like I do, your ballot look something like this. There will be on the first side, the race for mayor. So I'll scroll down and leave it there for a second. You can tell there are a lot of names. Keeps going. And then on the second side, oh, we have auditor there on the front. On the second side, we have the District 2 City Council candidates. So again, there's a lot of folks in the ballot. You're not going to see all of them in one screen, but that is what a piece of your ballot looks like for folks in Northeast Portland. But then for the rest of the question, I do want to turn it over to Jennifer and Leah to speak about what both the election and ballots are going to look like and what that experience is going to be like for folks.
I can speak to just kind of election night. You know, I think one of the things we've been cautioning, folks is that I think we're going to see not just a statewide trend, but a national trend when it comes to returns, that they're going to be slower than usual. I think there is just so much anxiety, I think, writ large, and everyone wants to know, like, okay, what's the result? What's the result? I would caution folks to just take a breath. And I think specifically when it comes to the city of Portland and doing ranked choice voting, is my own personal desire is that I want folks who have been trained, the election folks, to take their time and make sure that each ballot is counted and counted correctly. I would much rather there be delays in getting a return than to have that rushed and then have there be questions about the process and have that narrative that I think is out there that, you know, this process is too chaotic. We can't do this in the city of Portland. One, I think that's insulting. I think voters understand how to do ranked choice voting. We rank things all the time, though we may not call it ranked choice voting. And quite frankly, I think when folks are saying that and saying that folks are low informative or low informed voters, they're talking about Black and brown people. I mean, it's just coded language of, you know, folks didn't know what they were voting for, what they were getting. They knew what they were voting for. It was an overwhelming vote. And so we have to trust folks that have the agency to decide how they want their government run. And so I'm really looking forward to it. Again, I just think it's going to take a little bit longer than usual, but that's okay. I don't think that signals that anything is wrong. It just means that folks are going through a process, and a process that we would want them to go through, and that is trusted, because I know that county or election officials, excuse me, have been doing a lot of training on this issue. And so as someone who has a family friend that works every election, I know that she's getting training, and I'm glad that she's getting training, and folks are excited. And so, like I said, I just caution that folks have some patience, and that we will get the results when we get the results. And I'm excited about what this new form of government's going to look like.
So thank you, Jennifer. Leah, maybe we can go where Jennifer went, of what will results look like on election night, like what should folks expect? And then we can, after that, do a follow-up about ballots and assistance.
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm grabbing a link because I have a helpful one that I think we'll share in the chat right now. So in terms of what election results will look like, they're going to be different. Ranked choice voting results look different than what we've gotten used to with first past the post or plurality elections, which is what we've typically used. That said, so much is going to be the same, and I want to cover that first. On election night, just as with all other contests, at 8 p.m., we will be releasing the full round-by-round tabulation of all 6 of the City of Portland's ranked choice voting contests. So we'll be releasing the first results that are preliminary at 8 p.m. on election night. And we'll continue to release more results on Wednesday and on Thursday and on Friday, and regularly thereafter up until December 2nd, when results are certified. So as a reminder, this is not unique to ranked choice voting. With all contests, results are preliminary until we have received, processed, and counted all of the ballots, which can take some time. So the way that it's historically gone is that by election day, we have received somewhere between 60 and 80% of the ballots and been able to process and count them. By the end of the day, on the Thursday after election day, so November 7th in this case, we typically have received about 90% of the ballots. And so the results encompass more voters then. So results are going to be released regularly. And again, just as with other contests, they're going to be preliminary until we've processed all of the ballots. The link that I put into the chat goes into detail about what the reports are going to look like. There's even an entire sample page that has some sample contests for a District 2 contest and an auditor to show you what the different formats of the results reports will look like. We pulled these based on best practices from other places around the country, getting as much information as we could about how do we present this complex data in a way that people can digest in a simple visual format with bar chart, and then in a really detailed format that looks like a giant spreadsheet just with all of the data. We want it to be transparent and we want it to be understandable. So we're putting it all out there. But also on that page, you'll notice there's a lot of different terms that are defined, because with ranked choice voting, we talk about things differently. We want to make sure that voters are prepared to be able to interpret the results so that they know how their ballot was counted.
Thank you both so much. And I think like some of the themes I'm picking up there is that while there's a lot of changes, a lot is going to be the same. And that while we're going through these changes, it's important to remain calm, to recognize that the election will be tabulated, will be certified in the way it always has been. Because we don't have results right away doesn't mean it didn't work or shouldn't call things into question. And there's actually a lot of transparent information out there to help folks see and track at every stage what's happening. So we've talked a little bit about where things or how things are going to look for election night. As folks get ready to vote, I know ballots are dropping today, so people will be receiving them in the mail over the next week. What kind of assistance or things should people think about as they're voting or filling out their ballots?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. One of the things that we've been doing here at the Urban League is doing a set of candidate forums, and all of those links will be posted to our website and our YouTube and our Facebook. So what we have found is folks use those as a tool in tandem with their voters pamphlet guide to kind of go through and figure out who they're going to support. And so I would say those will be mainstays. We've done them for years. The voters pamphlet always comes out. It's going to be a fairly thick one this time around, and folks should have received those. And especially folks living in Multnomah County, will have an additional set aside pamphlet. So there should be two. I know that's what I received. And so, yeah, some of the things are going to stay the same. And so I would say if you have questions, not necessarily on who to vote for, but how to vote, you can definitely reach out to the Urban League of Portland, and I'll put our number and website in the chat. But you can also utilize other mainstays like the libraries. Librarians are there to, again, not tell folks how to vote or who to vote for rather, but show how to fill out ballots. You can also rely on 311 for any and all questions that you have. There's a plethora of things online that you can Google. And I would say, look at some examples and really get comfortable. And correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe that if you make a mistake on your ballot, it can be rectified, because we know that this is a new process. So we don't want folks to freak out if they're like, oh, shoot, I filled this out incorrectly. I can't go back and fix it. It can be fixed. Again, correct me if I'm incorrect. And so I would just say, reach out to your local organizations, many of whom have been doing voter education and outreach, because we're a resource, and call 311.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. You are correct. And thank you for saying that. This is a different way of voting. We imagine it's going to take some time for people to get used to, and that people might make mistakes, and that's okay. We always like to empower voters to correct their own ballot. The easiest way of doing so can be if you just put an X through an oval, if you didn't mean to fill it in, or if you changed your mind, just put an X through it. As long as you're making what choice you wanted to make obvious. We have elections officials that are trained to look at ballots to determine voter intent. We want to make sure that your vote is counted exactly as you meant it to be. That said, if your ballot is beyond repair, like if your dog eats your ballot or something, you can get a replacement. Just get in touch with us at the elections office. You can order one online through our website, multnomahvotes.gov. You can call us, you can stop into the office, and we'll get you a new ballot. Again, we always encourage people to first try to correct their own, because in most cases you can, but if you can't correct your own ballot, you can always order a replacement. In terms of what the ballot's going to look like, I just want to go over the ballot package really quickly. So, like Jennifer mentioned, you should have received your voters pamphlet already. 2 of them, in fact, one for the state of Oregon, one for Multnomah County, both of them being quite thick. There's information in there to help you piece through and learn more about the candidates. And then when you receive your ballot in the mail, just like always, it's going to come in a nice purple envelope. And when you open that up, you're going to find a whole bunch of information. One of those pieces being a ballot insert from the city of Portland that describes how to fill out a ranked choice voting ballot. So it describes how you can rank up to 6 candidates in the order of your preference, how you should fill in no more than 1 oval per column and no more than 1 oval per row, how you should only rank candidates that you would support getting elected. And it even walks you through how you can make a correction if you need to. So in addition to that ballot insert, another special thing is that you're going to receive 2 pages of your ballot. So one page is only going to have the ranked choice voting contest for City of Portland. Thank you so much for showing that sample. I think it's such a good tool for practicing on. So I'd encourage folks to go find your ballot on our website, take a look at it now, practice filling out your ballot. In addition to that ranked choice voting ballot, there's going to be one for all of the other contests. So for state, federal, county-wide races, and ballot measures. So again, 2 pages with them. You just want to make sure you're putting both pages in the return envelope. It's a gorgeous canary color envelope this year. Very exciting. So both pages in, and then return those to a ballot box, to your library, put them in the mail, or bring them to the elections office.
Thank you both. Lots of really good resources there, and things for folks to think about if they need help filling their ballots, if they're talking to people who are confused or who need help, being able to go to community organizations, to 311, to libraries in person, knowing that if you make a mistake, you can try to correct it by crossing out the mistake. If you need to repair it, you can go to the elections office or order a replacement ballot online. I think for me, it's making it really obvious how much intention and thought was put into this and how hard folks are trying to really make sure that folks are enfranchised and have the ability to exercise their vote in elections. We're about to go to some simulated ranked choice exercises. Another call for folks, if you want to put questions you have in the Q&A section, after we do some of these ranked choice voting simulations, we'll have a chance to turn it over and open it up for audience questions. And so if you have something on your mind, something you've heard that you'd like to hear Leah or Jennifer answer, go ahead and put that in the QA. In the meantime, in the chat, I just popped a link into a ranked choice voting exercise. So folks, click on that and you'll have a chance to vote and see how ranked choice voting works for yourself. I'll share my screen quickly. So what you're going to see as you click on that link is a vote for Portland's best sports team. You'll have a bunch of options there on the left. You have the rankings on the top. You'll see it's laid out really similar to how your ballots are going to look. So if everyone opens that up, go ahead and take some time reading it and ranking your favorite options for a sports team. You'll see in the chat, Diane is trying to tamper with the vote. Please feel free to vote your conscience and express your sports preference, regardless of what our moderator might tell you.
There's no voter intimidation allowed.
We'll give folks another 30 seconds to read and click through. You'll see at the bottom, as you click on options, it will be showing you the ranking so you can visually compare. If your ballot disappeared, you can click the link and open it again. As folks are doing that, this is a link that has been used multiple times, so your votes are going to go into the tabulations with hundreds, or in this case, over 1,000 folks who have filled this out, similar to the real election. So go ahead and click and submit. I will reshare that link in the chat. Give folks another 15 seconds, and then we will go through the results. David, I just popped that link in the chat, so you should see it right above your message, hopefully. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen again to walk folks through this. I am not a ranked choice voting professional, so I will let Jennifer and Leah editorialize as we look at these preliminary results.
Jennifer, how about you walk through this one? I'll take the next one.
Awesome. Well, it looks like it keeps shifting. So it looks like it's landed that the Thorns has won for soccer. And then it's the Trailblazers, the Timbers, and the Pickles, Rose City, and Winterhawk. So I would say, well, I guess it depends on how many slots do we have open. Is this a single or a multi?
This is a single.
So with this example, because there is only one available slot, so for example, the mayor's race would be considered a single because only one person can be the mayor. So for this instance, the Thorns is going to be our winner for tonight.
I think what I'm seeing here is, and this part was cut off, there has been over 1,000 people voting. So it looks like folks need, what does that say? It's sideways. 542 votes to win. So
Oh, that's our
Thorns,
threshold.
uh-huh.
Gotcha. So we'd have to do another round because they didn't reach the threshold.
Yeah, sorry, playing with the font size here. So that looks like it was the first round. Going to the second round.
Still no winner because we haven't reached that threshold. Again, we need 542 votes to win. So it would continue. The Winterhawks got eliminated. So those votes would be reapportioned to the next choice. And that's where you see the pluses. So you go to the next round. Still no winner. We're only at 439, but you could see that the Rose City Rollers, the roller derby, got eliminated. Those votes would then be reapportioned, and so you see a plus 57, a plus 19, a plus 22, and a plus 28. We'll now go to the next round. Still no clear winner, but the Pickles get eliminated in this round. Those votes get reapportioned. So you'll see the plus 39 to the Timber Soccer, the plus 56 to the Trailblazers, the plus 68 to the Thorns. And then we'll continue until we get that threshold of 542. And thank goodness, we finally have a winner. Excuse me, which is the Thorns at 627. And the Timbers in this last round got eliminated. So those votes would get reapportioned.
So one thing I'll say is I've been using this ranked vote contest for about 6 months. And ever since we had only like 10 votes, the Thorns have been in the lead. So I don't know if that makes it official, but I think it makes it official that they're the best team. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, we might end up with an official sports team in addition to a new mayor and council coming out of this election. Seems like folks were able to do that. Again, welcome to put questions in the QA. But next, like Jennifer said, that represented a single winner election. So that's what our mayor and auditor race will look like for the city of Portland. For all of the city council districts, the city's been divided into 4 districts. District 1 is East Portland, District 2, North and Northeast, District 3, most of Southeast Portland, and District 4, West Portland, plus Selwood and a tiny sliver of Southeast. And each of those districts will be electing 3 city council members. So in those, we're going to see ranked choice voting with multiple winners. So we have another exercise. I just put the link in the chat, so folks go ahead and click that to open it up. And in this one, we're going to be placing our collective dinner order. So in this scenario, we're letting folks rank up to 6 options. There will be 3 dinner options that are selected. I'll share my screen so folks can take a look and make sure they're on the right page. You'll see a number of different items. I know food is a lot harder, so I'm gonna give folks some time to read over the options and think through their rankings. Go ahead and take another few seconds to contemplate your votes for our collective dinner order, and then we'll walk through those in a second. Take your last few seconds to submit your responses. Want to make sure we count as many votes as possible. We have some electioneering and campaigning happening in the chat. Okay, submit your responses, and then I'm going to share my screen again, and Leah can help walk us through what we are seeing in the results.
All right, thank you. Before I get into these results, I want to do a quick recap of what we learned the first time seeing the walkthrough with it. So one thing that we talked about the first time is the threshold. So the threshold is a term that you'll hear a lot with ranked choice voting results. The threshold means the amount of votes that a candidate or candidates needs to be elected. In a contest where there's only one winner, the threshold is 50% plus 1 vote, which is a more precise way of saying a majority. So over 50% of the vote to win. So that's what we were looking for last time. In a 3-winner contest, such as for our dinner order, or more importantly, Portland City Council, the candidates each need over 25% of the vote to win. So the threshold is 25% plus 1 vote here. And as we're counting this, we're counting in rounds, which is how ranked choice voting works. This is when all of those choices on your ballot come into play. So as you're filling out your ballot, you look at rank 1, and that's where you fill in an oval for your very favorite candidate there. And so when we're looking at round 1 and counting, we're only looking at people's highest ranked candidate on their ballots. So only that rank 1 column. So Andres, would you mind going up a little bit to see again? I'm going to do some spoilers, which is we know who our winners are, which is xiaolong bao, Penang curry, and pepperoni pizza. So we've had 60 people who have voted in this contest so far. And so that means 25% plus 1 vote of 60 votes is 16 votes. So a dish needs 16 votes in order to be ordered by our collective table. So let's look at how this works out. So scrolling down, round 1, again, this is when we're only looking at people's highest ranked choices. So when people filled out their ballots, 11 people said that their top choice was Penang curry. 10 people said that their top choice was xiaolong bao. 9 people said pepperoni pizza, and so on. So we see that our 3 eventual winners are already in the lead, but none of them have 16 votes. So none of them have reached that threshold for election. Excuse me. So what we're going to do now is move to the next round. And to answer a question that I saw in Q&A, this is when the transfer of votes happens. So a new round, when that happens, what we do is we eliminate the candidate who has received the fewest votes, and then their votes are transferred to their voters' next highest ranked choice. So let's go to round 2. So here we see that vegan fettuccine Alfredo and JoJo's are eliminated, and their votes are transferred to their voters' next highest ranked choice. So one of them, their voter said that their second choice was a big green salad. This is a health food nut. And then the other one said that their next highest ranked choice was for the curry. And so the curry gains a vote, so does the salad. But again, we still don't have any that have reached over 16% of the vote. So for the next round, we're going to continue to eliminate the candidate with the fewest votes, which in this case is butternut squash soup. And let's go to round 3. Okay, so those votes are transferred, and other dishes or candidates, I was going to say, continue to gain votes. We see that they're transferred to big green salad, to pastor tacos and fried chicken, cheese curds, my personal favorite. I'm from Wisconsin. That's why I put cheese curds in this one. So they're gaining, but no one yet has crossed the threshold. Let's go to round 4. Whoa, round 4, that's where all the action is happening. We see that pastor tacos, fried chicken, and cheese curds were tied, and all 3 of those had their votes transferred. So we see 2 really interesting things that happened. One, I'll start with and say Penang curry got exactly 16 votes, exactly the threshold, and is elected. Congratulations to the curry fans out there. In addition to that, we see that Xiaolong Bao got 18 votes. So they only needed 16 to win, but they got 2 extra. So this is when a different type of vote transfer comes in, which is called surplus votes transfers. This means when a candidate has received more votes than they need to be elected. What we do then is we take a portion of every single vote of every single voter who voted for Xiaolong Bao, so 18 people in this case, and a portion of their vote would go to their next highest ranked choice to make sure that their full vote goes as far as it can go. So again, we're going to take those 2 extra votes and we're going to transfer them to people's next highest ranked choices. So let's go to next and see what happens. So with that, we see a transfer, and pepperoni pizza gains votes there. So we have both Penang curry and Xiaolong Bao, which are tied for 16 at the threshold because Xiaolong Bao's extra votes have been transferred to their voters' next highest ranked choice, but we still don't have a third. So looks like we're down to pepperoni pizza and a big green salad. Are we going for health food or are we going for pizza? We know the answer here. Okay, so let's eliminate big green salad. And with that, pepperoni pizza gains enough votes to cross the threshold. And so this is how we get 3 candidates. And this is also how we come up with 3 very different dishes that perhaps speak to all of the needs of everyone that voted. Ideally, with this, what it means is that at least 75% of people who voted have some choice that they made on their ballot reflected in the final choices. So we've got something for the vegans. We've got something for the meat eaters. We've got something for a little bit of everything, honestly, as I look through this. So that's how this works out. We're looking for 3 candidates that reach the threshold, and people that have gone over the threshold then have their votes transferred to their voters' next highest ranked choice. So this was the difference between single winner and multi-winner. With single winner, candidates can only gain votes from eliminated candidates. With multi-winner, they gain votes from candidates that are eliminated, but also when some candidates receive more votes than they need to be elected, their extra is passed on to voters' next highest ranked choice. A really great way that I've heard this explained is, let's say that you want to buy a candy bar and you go to the store with $1 in your pocket. And you go and you find your favorite candy bar, but it only costs 90 cents. And so you have 10 cents extra to spend on something else that you would like. This is how it works with that surplus, being able to go towards your next choice, give a little bit there too.
Thank you so much, Leah and Jennifer, for walking us through both of those. Seeing lots of love in the chat. To the folks asking if this will be available, we always post our recordings on our website. So as soon as we finish processing that, it will be there for folks to see. So next we have some time. We're going to go to audience questions. The first question we have coming in is about the strategy of not ranking candidates that you oppose. So the question is, I have a question about the strategy of not ranking candidates you oppose. Is that a good thing, or does it subvert the whole purpose? I started hearing about this and would love some additional thoughts. So obviously we're not here to tell people who to vote for, but to the extent that we're doing voter education, anything you would share in response to this question.
Yeah, I can jump in. I would say the great thing about ranked choice voting, it's about your preference. So you don't have to rank anyone that you don't like. It's really shades of preference in terms of, this person I think is fantastic. They're my number one choice. This person's pretty great too. They can be my second choice. I could live with this person. They're my third choice. I still really like them. The fourth person, they're okay. And then you could stop. So I would, our recommendation that we've been making is you don't have to rank anyone you don't like. And that's the great thing about this model is that really it truly is rooted in who are you really jazzed about? Like who are you excited about? And who would you like to see be in these roles? And that's who you should rank.
Yeah. I'll add on to that and say, of course, as an elections official, I cannot tell you any strategy for how you should vote, but I can tell you how the tabulation works, which is that when you fill in an oval on your ballot to rank a candidate, that is a potential vote for that person. So do not rank candidates that you would not support getting elected, because as we just saw through that run through, your vote could end up being transferred to a subsequent choice. So again, only rank candidates that you would support getting elected on there.
Thank you. We have a follow-up question that came through the chat. I think that's pretty closely related. So if you only vote for 3 of the 6 candidates, does it make those 3 votes more valuable? And I've definitely heard folks talking about this of like, does ranking fewer people add value or add impact to the vote?
I mean, from my perspective, I would say if you only want to vote for those 3, rank them 1, 2, 3, and however, whatever order you want to rank those folks. But again, don't rank anyone you don't want to support, would be my recommendation. Again, I'm trying to walk that fine line of like not telling folks how to vote, but like these are your options.
Absolutely. As a volunteer who is moderating today, I will take an opportunity to editorialize and not tell people how to vote, but use the example that we just had. So we were picking 3 things to order for food. I felt particularly strongly about the curry and the tacos. If I had only voted for the curry and the tacos, and the curry hadn't been as popular as it had been, then once both of those options would have been cut, that would have been the end of my ballot. There wouldn't have been anywhere to transfer my vote. So the 3 items would have been selected without me. Since I ranked all 6 of the items, even though I was not really excited about the salad, I put it there as my 6th choice because I would rather have a voice in the decision than no voice in the decision. And I think that transfers over to how voters think about their ballots, is absolutely echoing what everyone has said. Only rank options you feel good about, only rank options you can live with. But the fewer options you rank, the more likely it will be that the end decision will be made without you, right? Like none of us can guess the outcome of elections, especially this round. There's so many people running. It's such a new system. We don't know what we're going to see, and we don't know who will make it to the final round. So the more people you can rank, the more likelihood your vote will be part of the final decisions made.
I'll just tag on one little thing as well is that I think we have such an embarrassment of riches when it comes to candidate that truly this will be shades of preference. So I think it will live within, I think it's gonna be harder to really limit to just the 3, just the 6, or whatever it is, and really just encourage folks to rank within your preference.
Thank you. This next question, I think, was probably best for Leah. How are the rounds going to be recalculated over and over again as more ballots are counted? So you mentioned like a certain number of ballots will be in election night. Those will be updated regularly. Will rounds be running each time, or like how will that work and look like?
Great question. And every time that we do a results report update, we will do a complete round by round tabulation until the appropriate amount of candidates have crossed over the threshold, meaning 1 for auditor and mayor and 3 for city council races. So it'll look similar to what you just saw. Every time we do a count, we will count every ballot we've received. Every one that we had previously and every new one will be taken into account. So the results will always show full round by round, so you can tell who's leading and how they got there every single time. The results will not be final, though, until we've counted all the ballots. But just with any other election, this is true. The results that are preliminary and brought on election night show who's in the lead. They do not say definitively who has won.
That's really helpful. So then I'm going to repeat back and correct me if this doesn't sound right. So you mentioned before, like a percentage will be received by election night and each following day will have more results. And so each time results are released, you'll see kind of like this, the results of like, we only have X percentage or X number of ballots. And when we ran through these rounds, here are the results round by round for that amount of ballots. And it won't be complete. And then as more results come in, they'll be added and they won't be final until certified, but you'll be able to see those rounds play out each time results are received. Is that right?
That is accurate. Yeah. And I think one important thing, just I'll say it again, is recognizing when we look at these results, just as with other contests, we're showing you who's in the lead and how they got there. We're not saying this is definitive, that they're in the lead now and forever will be, or that this person was eliminated in an early round and that they forever will be. It's just showing all of the math. It's like us showing our work of how we got to those eventual results of who took the lead and how. Speaking of showing our work, I wanted to reply to a question in the chat about the surplus fraction. And I apologize, y'all. I'm going to put something really dense in here right now. For people who are interested in the math, I am happy to share it. So what I've put in there is the surplus fraction, how it is figured out, along with an example of how it's broken down for how we figure out what the proportion of people's votes is with that. I took all of this information that I just copied and pasted into the chat directly from our website, which I'm going to put in the chat again. This has a full breakdown that explains how votes are tabulated and goes into the detail of talking about surplus fractions and all of the math behind it. One thing I'll say is, for voters, this is not the piece that you need to worry about when filling out your ballot. Your ballot's going to look the same, whether it's for electing one winner or for electing 3. What you need to do is decide who you want to be ranking on your ballot and fill in those ovals. And then we've got it from our end to be able to do this tabulation and do the math on the back end.
Thank you. I'm going to keep using my opportunity as host to editorialize. So what I'm hearing through the math in that is it's all about fractions, right? So it's in the example we saw, I think the Curry was in the lead and had 2 extra votes. And so then for all the people who voted, they would get whatever the extra votes fraction of an additional vote passed on to their second choice. So we're going to end up with a lot of decimals, with a lot of small numbers. Obviously, this is going to happen at scale. So it's not going to be 16 votes to decide city council districts. It will be a thousands number. And so that many thousands of people's fractional votes would be passed on to each additional vote. Also, as a voter, like I am not the person deciding who won. We have computers and elections experts and folks checking that work. So it is not on us individually to be able to tabulate the election results, but it is helpful for us to understand generally how this is working.
And can I just chime in
yes,
real quick?
please.
I also just want to remind folks that like election certifications have been longstanding. Like that process of waiting until a certain date to certify an election is how we've always done it. And so I don't want folks to think that like this is a new process. I mean, you can go to the Secretary of State's website and look at returns, and they're constantly updating throughout the night as votes come in. And I want to remind folks that ballots only have to be postmarked by election day and they still count. So we're going to see ballots come in after election day. I know I'm guilty of unfortunately waiting to the last minute, even though I do this work, to send in my ballot. And I know I'm not the only procrastinator. So again, I just going back to, I think what I said about anxiety, I just need folks to take a breath. Like we're going to get the results. They're going to be updated. And if you're a nerd like me, you'll probably be watching it in real time and trying not to like have a stroke. But it's fine. I know that this is a big election across the board and folks are, feeling very anxious. So just take a breath, use your stress ball, drink lots of water, and it's going to be okay.
We have some more questions coming in around elimination. So it looks like we have two different questions. One of them has been like in the scenario of surplus vote and transferring votes, what happens if that person's second choice has been eliminated already? Where does their fractional vote go? And the other one being about people being eliminated in rounds, but those results not being final. So Leah, do you want to address those?
I am happy to. With this again, I'm happy to give an explanation here, but do encourage you to visit that webpage that I feel like I'm like a telemarketer that I continue to plug about results because it has definitions of all of these terms. I suggest it not because I don't want to explain, but because with my learning style, I sometimes find it easiest to sit and read. So I just want you to know that that resource is there for you too. But to answer the question first for Hoyt, so yes, you are correct in that if your second choice has been eliminated and your vote is going to be transferred, your vote is transferred to your next highest active candidate, is what we say. Active meaning someone that has not been eliminated yet and is still actively receiving votes in the contest. And Ashley, to your question about a candidate being eliminated in a round, but that not being final. So this is a piece that we've been receiving a lot of questions about from people because it's confusing. We're used to the terms defeated and eliminated being very final and concrete. However, both eliminated or defeated, as it's used in results terminology, are dynamic states with ranked choice voting. This is a tabulation term that describes how we got to figure out who was in the lead. So it helps us show that work of how someone took the lead and how we got there. So an example of this could be in the vote that we did for choosing our dinner order, for instance. I was trying to remember who got the least amount of votes, but I don't. But I will say it was heartbreaking how few cheese curds got. So I'll just use them as an example and say, in our example that we did, cheese curds were eliminated early on. They didn't receive many votes. And so let's pretend that what we just did was the results update that we're going to do at 8 p.m. on election night. So it showed that cheese curds were eliminated in round 2 because they had the fewest votes in that round. However, going back to what Jennifer said about like voters that maybe like to procrastinate, maybe people that love cheese curds like are voters who turn in their ballots later. So when we look at all of the ballots, again, collecting all of them that we've received up until that point on Wednesday after election day, perhaps we found that now cheese curds has more votes. And so they no longer are eliminated in round 2 because they are not the lowest vote getter. So being eliminated in a round of tabulation for one results update does not mean that a candidate won't show up in future results updates. Every candidate that is on the ballot for City of Portland will show up in every single results update that we do.
That's really helpful. And that reminds me of what both of you talked about, results not being final until they're certified. So even though we're getting live results, even though everything's really transparent and visible online, just because we're seeing someone in the lead doesn't mean that has happened. Just because we see someone being eliminated in a round doesn't mean that those will be the final results. This reminds me also of national elections and how on election night we don't know who became president, and we might not know this year who became president. And it could be that a state that had been called in a certain direction, once all the votes come in, ends up going in a different direction. And so it really feels kind of like that same tradition and style of like, we're reporting on results as they become live. And as we get more information, those results could shift and change. And in ranked choice voting, that could include who's eliminated or who's making it on to which round. I'm seeing a question come in around, I'll read the question and then I'll editorialize to try to make it helpful for our panelists. So the question itself is, if I'm all in excited for one candidate, please explain why voting for 1 to 5 more people won't dilute my power for the first point vote. And I know you can't tell people how to vote or how to rank people, but I do think that there's a piece there about first choice votes and what's actually counted, and when your second, third, fourth, etc. choices become relevant, that might be helpful to this person.
Yeah, I mean, I think you spoke to this earlier in terms of just because your first choice, hold on, how can I say this? Just because you're voting for a particular person as first choice doesn't mean other folks are as well. And so it's not a winner take all model anymore. It's different. And so it's important to rank the folks that you like. And so, if you're all in on one person, okay, fine, but it's not guaranteed that necessarily that person's going to make it past that first round, depending on how many votes they get. So that's a chance you could take. But again, we've just been encouraging folks to, again, do the research, see where folks stand on the issues. Again, I think we have an abundance of candidates, and there's a lot of great folks running. And so I would just really say, just take some time. I know it's overwhelming, but do the research and see if there are more than one person that you're willing to support. But again, if there really is only just one person, vote for that one person. But do not fill out 1 through 5 just for that one person, because then folks looking and the machine looking at the ballot can't differentiate if that person is your first choice or your fifth choice. So the example I give is, for those folks who use Scantrons back in the day, you want only one bubble filled out per candidates per ranking.
Just to add in something I've heard, and Leah, correct me if this is right. Your second through sixth choice is used if your first choice is eliminated or if your first choice has more votes, right? So it's not that you get 6 votes, it's that you get 1 vote for first choice. And the only reason any of your other choices come into play is because the person you vote got cut, or they already met the threshold, and so the votes are being transferred. And so thinking through that, that means ranking additional people doesn't dilute or cut into your first choice vote. It's more like a backup plan. It gives you alternatives if that person already won or if that person was cut for your ballot to be counted. Does that sound right, Leah?
That was beautifully said. Could not have said it better myself. Yep, they're backup choices. And just to reiterate that and say it one more time, ranking additional candidates does not hurt the chances of your first choice candidate. They're just there as backups.
2 questions that came in that I think are pretty straightforward and have been addressed, but just to say them out loud. The first one, how was the order of candidates on the ballot decided? And then the next one is where multi-winner systems are used other places.
So I can answer the first one. So the alphabetization scheme for ballots is decided by the Secretary of State each election cycle. They choose a random order that they are put in, and then every ballot is alphabetized the same. So it's an order that is given to us by the Secretary of State, and that's how it's decided.
And then I think to the second, there's an answer that it's used around the world. I think some of the specific places that I've heard mentioned is Ireland, Scotland, and then cities that have multi-member districts.
I can also add that Alaska, Maine, New York City, Cambridge, Massachusetts, Minneapolis, and San Francisco all use RCV.
And
as some examples. Sorry, go ahead.
For the multi-winner specifically, I'll also say a lot of our implementation has been informed by multi-winner ranked choice voting in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which uses it in a couple of different ways in Arlington, Virginia, and in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Thank you. 1 second. We have more people wanting to get in the weeds on tabulation system. I let folks reach out individually if they have additional questions and want to get in touch with the elections division. I'm not seeing any additional questions. So I think, thank you, Leah, for putting your email there in the chat. Thank you to everyone for tuning in tonight. A huge thank you to Jennifer and Leah for taking the time to share with us today, and to everyone for joining us. Portland for All is excited to continue this work, to see how things play out on election night. We'll be hosting an election night party that we'll share information about for folks who are interested in joining. Again, folks are welcome to go to our website to learn more about us and how to get involved, as well as our recommendations. So that's portlandforall.org. Thank you all, and happy voting.